The modern concept of a home is a sanctuary, a quiet, private refuge where we close the door to the world, retreat into our personal space, and recharge in peaceful solitude. But if you were to step into a time machine and travel back to a bustling, ancient metropolis like Rome at the height of the empire or a tightly packed medieval European capital, you would find this concept utterly alien. In the ancient and pre-modern urban world, the boundary between public and private was not a thick brick wall, but a remarkably thin curtain. Life was lived shoulder to shoulder, and when the sun went down, the city did not retreat into silent isolation. Instead, it compressed into an intimate, noisy, and often unsanitary reality. Welcome to the grit and reality of historical urban living. In this installment, we strip away the marble facades and romanticized tapestries to examine the raw, sensory experience of daily life, the latrines, the inescapable noise, the cramped sleeping arrangements, and the complete absence of what we now call privacy. The communal latrine, where business met business. To understand the sheer lack of privacy in antiquity, one only needs to look at their bathrooms. Today, the bathroom is the ultimate private sphere. In the ancient world, it was an extension of the public forum. The public latrines, such as the Roman foricæ, were marvels of ancient plumbing, but nightmares for the modern sense of modesty. No stalls, no secrets. Imagine a long, rectangular room lined with marble or stone benches, punctured by a series of keyhole-shaped openings spaced just a few feet apart. There were no partitions. You sat down right next to your neighbor, be it a wealthy merchant who was caught short on his way to the market or a humble baker. The social network. Because there was no privacy, the latrine became an unexpected social hub. Men would sit, relieve themselves, and casually discuss the day's politics, the latest chariot races, or local gossip. It was a place of networking. The communal sponge. Perhaps most shocking to the modern mind was the method of cleaning. Toilet paper did not exist. Instead, users shared a xylospongium, a sea sponge attached to a wooden stick. After use, it was rinsed in a shallow channel of running water at the user's feet and left for the next person. The latrine exemplifies a crucial psychological difference between then and now. Bodily functions were not shameful secrets to be hidden behind locked doors, but simply a mundane fact of communal existence. A symphony of chaos, the inescapable noise. If you think modern cities are loud, historical cities would have driven you to the brink of madness. Without zoning laws separating residential areas from industrial ones, the urban environment was a chaotic symphony of human survival. In cities like ancient Rome, Julius Caesar actually passed a law banning wheeled traffic during daylight hours to ease extreme pedestrian congestion. While this made the days safer, it turned the nights into a cacophonous nightmare. "What sleep is possible in a lodging?" lamented the Roman poet Juvenal. The crossing of wagons in the narrow, winding streets, the swearing of drovers brought to a stand, would snatch sleep from a sea calf or the emperor himself. The night was filled with a specific, jarring soundtrack. The iron-rimmed wheels. Heavy wooden carts, their wheels rimmed in iron, clattered and smashed against uneven cobblestone streets. The beasts of burden, mules, oxen, and horses, neighed, brayed, and stomped outside bedroom windows. The night workers. Bakers began kneading dough and grinding grain in massive stone mills long before dawn. Blacksmiths stoked their fires and hammered iron. Domestic disputes. With walls built poorly and tightly packed together, every shout, crying baby, and drunken argument from the neighbors echoed straight into your bedchamber. Silence was a luxury commodity. Only the ultra-rich who could afford sprawling villas atop hills, insulated by vast gardens and thick walls, knew what it meant to sleep in peace. For the 99%, exhaustion was the only effective sleep aid. Cramped quarters, shared breath, and borrowed beds. When a citizen of the ancient or medieval world finally managed to fall asleep, they rarely did so alone. The romanticized image of a large, solitary canopy bed was reserved solely for kings and elites. For the working class, sleeping arrangements were characterized by extreme claustrophobia. In ancient Rome, the majority of the population lived in insulae, multi-story apartment blocks that were often shoddily built, prone to catching fire, and incredibly cramped. The hierarchy of altitude. Unlike modern penthouses, the higher you lived in an ancient apartment building, the poorer you were. The ground floors were sturdier, had access to water, and offered a quick escape in a fire. The top floors, accessed by precarious wooden ladders, were sweltering in the summer, freezing in the winter, and packed to the rafters. The reality of the bedroom. Shared beds. It was entirely normal for an entire family, parents, children, and sometimes even extended relatives or servants, to share a single room. Makeshift mattresses. Real beds with wooden frames were expensive. Most people slept on pallets stuffed with straw, wool, or dried leaves. These were breeding grounds for bedbugs, fleas, and lice. The climate, out of control. Windows in the upper apartments were often just unglazed holes in the wall. To keep out the biting winter wind, they were shuttered with wood, plunging the room into pitch blackness and trapping the odors of sweat, smoke from oil lamps, and unemptied chamber pots. There was no going to your room to be alone. Personal space was practically non-existent. You heard your family breathe, you felt them toss and turn, and you shared in every illness that swept through the cramped quarters. The illusion of privacy, living life on a stage. The cumulative effect of communal bathrooms, paper-thin walls, and shared sleeping spaces created a society where everyone knew everything about everyone else. In this environment, reputation was paramount because you were always being watched. Nosy neighbors weren't just a nuisance, they were a societal institution. If you had an argument with your spouse, the whole block knew about it. If you brought home a lavish meal, your neighbors smelled it and judged your sudden wealth. To cope with this, people developed a psychological armor. They learned to tune out the background noise, to ignore the smells, and to maintain a public face even in their most private moments. They found intimacy not in physical isolation, but in whispered conversations in crowded streets, or in the subtle, unspoken bonds shared by families enduring the same hardships. Conclusion. Looking back at the public lives and private nights of our ancestors offers a humbling perspective on our modern comforts. The next time you close the door to your bedroom, adjust the thermostat, and sink into a quiet, solitary sleep, remember that for the vast majority of human history, such an experience would have been considered an unimaginable luxury. The ancient city was a place of incredible vitality and human achievement, but it was also a place of overwhelming sensory overload. To survive it required not just physical endurance, but a remarkable psychological resilience, an ability to find a sense of self when the world was quite literally pressing in from all sides.